In every major city, you will find traditions that remain from the time of the pharaohs. Cruising on the Nile, Ramadan in Egypt, Eid, and also shopping. All have a different flavor. Explore Egypt on Nile TV International.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to welcome here in the studio Engineer Mohammed Al-Baili, economic expert. Thank you very much for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Obviously, we're discussing the IMF loan, but I wanted your opinion, first of all, about the IMF giving us or approving the $12 billion loan for Egypt. What would that mean for the country?
It means trust.
Right.
A very big trust. We have received money from our brothers in the Arab countries, but this loan is different. It's not a matter of getting the money, it's a matter of what it implies.
Right.
It's a proof of trust from the World Bank and the IMF that Egypt is moving on the right track. It's very important.
And indeed, since the loan's approval, obviously, we've seen the bourse make some good gains during the past couple of days. We've also seen today there was a soar of 9.2 billion in profits. But how will the loan affect the overall economy?
Speaking about the overall economy, sure, the loan is going to affect. As I said, when there is trust, there is investment.
Right.
Okay? So foreign direct investment, as soon as it starts and it starts pouring in the country, it will help so much labor. It will help so much the activity and the industrialization inside Egypt, which will in turn help in the export, which will in turn help in people working and gaining more money and revenues. So it's but a start.
Right.
And mainly we are looking from this. Of course, I don't know how this money is going to be utilized, but I'm sure the government has a good plan for it, not just spending it and that's it. Definitely, they are going to invest it in the right way. And don't forget that today, the US dollar went a little bit down.
Right.
So all these are outputs or results from the approval of the IMF for the money.
Well, we know that the first, obviously you say that the government hasn't made clear exactly how each tranche or where each tranche is going to go to, but we know that the initial 2.75 billion is going to go into Egypt's foreign reserves. And we wanted to know exactly what that would mean, how that would affect the economy.
It will affect controlling, first of all, it will affect controlling the US dollar and the devaluation of the Egyptian pound.
Right.
You see, because when you have reserves of foreign currency, it helps you to interfere in the right times. Okay, this doesn't mean that the Egyptian pound is floating, because if you are going to interfere, that doesn't mean it's floating. But sometimes it's devaluated in not the right way, not a real way. So having reserves in foreign currency will help a lot in controlling this. And if you control the currency problem that we do have, the wheel will start rolling.
Okay, now further disbursements, we understand further disbursements of the loan will depend on the country's economic performance and implementation of reforms. Now, a lot of people are wondering, will these reforms include other austerity measures other than what we have already seen? We've seen the VAT, the flotation of the pound, and obviously the increase in the prices of oil.
Well, to tell you the truth, I cannot say or I cannot think government is going to do because they don't usually take the opinion of the public in what they do, but they want the people to trust them, and that's it. So we don't know how are they going to act, but definitely if they took the step of taking the loan from the IMF, definitely they have the plan, and there is more and more to come to control the economy and push the Egyptian economy on. And if they managed to convince the IMF to give us the loan when we have passed 4 or 5 years, very tough, definitely the coming years are going to be much better, hopefully.
To what extent, though, will this economic reform program that Egypt has put forward to the IMF in order to receive this loan, to what extent do you think it's going to affect the medium and low income brackets?
It is going to affect, but let us be fair. It's not the problem of this government or the government before. It's the problem of 30 years with no movement. Egypt was put in a deep freezer. If through the past 30 years of Mubarak's time, the subsidization is reduced 5% per year or something, we won't have faced these problems we are facing now.
Right.
So definitely it's going to affect everybody, not the medium and the needy people, everybody. Everybody now is looking to put off the lights. Everybody now is looking for how much money he's going to pay for the gas and so on. So yes, we are going, I don't want to say suffer, but we are going to face hard times. But if the government really proves that they are on the right track and make more cooperation and negotiation and discussions with the public, then we are going to pass the hard times.
What other measures do you feel that the government needs to take in order for the economy to revive, to gain pace once again? Because obviously we talk that the IMF loan is going to encourage investors and the flotation of the pound is going to encourage investors to come and invest in Egypt. But also there are other hurdles that face investors, and they have to also be faced, including, for example, bureaucracy, including the fact that everything has to take such a long process in order for it to go through. Does the government need to do more in terms of attracting foreign investors to the country when it comes especially to legislation?
From my opinion, my point of view, that every ministry is trying to do as much as they can, but there is no integration.
Right.
To push a weak economy like Egypt, there has to be so much integration between the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Investment, between all the cabinet. It's not enough that the central bank floats the pound. It's not enough that the investment law alone is approved. It's not enough that there is a separate tax law that's better for investors. All of them have to be integrated together. And this is what the cabinet, from my point of view, lacks.
Right.
So integration is very important. Quick steps is needed. Investment law is not approved since 3 years now, since Sharm el-Sheikh conference. On the other hand, the tax law is very important. The investor will not be happy that you tell him it's a free country, I'm not going to pay tax. He is going to be much more interested and happy if there is stability in the currency, if there is stability in the regulations, not overnight new regulations comes which affects his plan of investment. He would be much more happier if there is a free movement of his capital and his investment and his profits. All these things will make him much more happier than making an investment and not paying taxes. No,
Right.
the country needs taxes. The country should stand up and offer the right opportunities, and they are a lot.
Right. A lot of people worry that this loan taking, whether it be it from the IMF or from other banks or organizations or institutions from around the world, is going to affect not maybe Egypt at its current state, but in the future, when it comes to repaying these loans, that it's going to affect their children's future and so on and so forth. What do you say to these skeptics?
I don't think that the government has taken all these steps to take the loan without a plan.
Right.
It's going to be disastrous if they just went to take the loan and without a plan.
Right.
But definitely there is a plan.
Right.
Definitely they have thought of what they are going to do with the loan. So that, again, I'm telling you, because we don't know, so we have to wait and see and put the trust in the government.
Right.
We have nothing else to do.
But how important is transparency? I mean, when you apply austerity measures on the public still wants to know how this money is going to be governed in one way or another, is it not?
Of course. You cannot, if I'm in the place of the government, you are right. The public has the right to know. But not everything to be said. So at least guidelines, at least general ideas. We are going to use this fund in part of it in industry, part of it in agriculture. We are not going to use it for the salaries. So this thing, just general idea. Let the people feel that they are part of the whole strategy.
Right.
You see, and let me tell you, the public is Egypt. It's not the government.
Right.
The government has to understand this. These people in the streets, they have the right to understand or to know or the guidelines of what's going on.
Right. When it comes to obviously looking at how else the economy can be revived, what do you think are other steps that need to be taken, be it encouraging of small and medium-sized businesses or other steps indeed that can be taken in order to put the economy back on track, reviving, for example, tourism and working towards that, and not just reviving tourism but perhaps also increasing provided to tourists?
There are lots of aspects for this, for the answer to this question. If you are speaking about tourism, the main sectors that that makes Egypt gain foreign currency, which is tourism and the labor, the foreign laborers and the Suez Canal, but we are missing exports. So industry is very important. My own opinion, I'm against the real estate projects unless it's 100% Egyptian.
Right.
Okay, so industry is very important.
So you're saying perhaps when we encourage investors to come that we should be more selective and tell them this is the areas where Egypt needs investment?
Saudi Arabia, for example, if you go and want to open, for example, a trading company, they will tell you the kingdom doesn't need trading companies.
Right.
The kingdom needs investment in so and so. And not only we have to say that the country needs investment in these areas, but we have to go out and run after the investors. We have to market ourselves.
Right.
So a part of the main items, there is industry is very important, mining is very important. On the other hand, regarding the food problem, we have 2 seas, we have lakes, we have to take care of this, and also we have to encourage the youngsters, we encourage the teenagers to work. And most important, a part of these investments and so on, we have to look at the reason the young people doesn't want to work.
Right.
There is a reason. And we have lots of scientists that understand socially and that can think and give us the solution how to approach these people. It's not enough for the President Sisi to get them and sit with them. It's a very good step, but it's not enough. We have a problem. The people don't want to work.
Right.
So we have to focus on this, understand what's going on, so that they can push the economy.
Well, I thank you very much for your insights. Engineer Mohammed Al-Bani, economic expert. It was a pleasure having you with us on the first segment of tonight's program. Ladies and gentlemen, before I welcome my second guest for this evening, let's take a look at what's happening over in the United States, where demonstrations have been going on since U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has won the presidential elections there. We'll be back to discuss that right after this report.
Demonstrators took to the streets in Miami, Los Angeles, New York, and other U.S. cities to oppose Donald Trump's election as president for a third straight night of nationwide protests Friday. People gathered in New York's Washington Square neighborhood in Lower Manhattan, some carrying enormous red balloons and placards with hearts and the words peace and love. Others held signs reading, "Your wall cannot stand in our way," reference to the anti-immigration barrier the billionaire real estate baron has promised to build on the U.S. border with Mexico. An estimated 4,000 people gathered at the site, while others descended on Union Square and marched through Midtown and still more converged outside Trump Tower. The New York Police Department reported that 11 people had been arrested as of late Friday. Demonstrators said they wanted to show solidarity with those they felt may be targeted by Trump's policies once he takes office in January, including Mexicans and Muslims. Organizers planned another large demonstration in the same Washington Square location on Saturday, and more protests were held across a number of cities over the weekend. Meanwhile, about 8,000 protesters took part in apparently spontaneous demonstrations in Miami, hoisting signs against racism and opposing the deportation of undocumented immigrants as they walked down the boulevard. Atlanta police estimated that the city's largest anti-Trump protest yet drew more than 1,000 people Friday. And in Philadelphia, some 250 people gathered for a rally against the president-elect. Further north in Boston, more than 8,000 people converged in the afternoon for a love rally against Trump's divisive rhetoric. Demonstrations also occurred in Detroit, Michigan, Dallas, Texas, Memphis, Tennessee, Orlando, Florida, and North Carolina. Since Trump's shock victory on Tuesday over Democrat Hillary Clinton, who had been widely tipped to win, thousands have protested in cities across the United States. While most of the demonstrations have been peaceful, officials said some erupted in violence that caused property damage. There has also been an uptick in violence by both Clinton and Trump supporters against partisans on the other side.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining me for this segment is Mr. Ahmad Salwan, former member of the Republican Committee at the U.S. Congress. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Obviously, you're watching closely the U.S. presidential elections, and then it comes in that Donald Trump has won the presidential race. What are your impressions?
I would say most people was in shock in America and other countries and in Europe and most countries, because if you ask the American people, according to poll, I mean, a few days before the election, 80% almost was confident that Hillary will win. And it was the reason for her to lose, because a lot of her supporters did not go to vote. And it was a shock for everybody. And still, as you see, there is demonstrations, there is even violent one. There is calling for changing the electoral vote because she wants
Explain that to us a little bit more, because some people don't understand how she won the popular vote, but he won the electoral vote.
You know, I didn't like the electoral vote myself until I really understand why they did that.
Right. No, but how does it work?
How it works is each state have representative in Washington, D.C., in the capital for the Congress. There is every state are represented by two senators equally, and that's for the House of that's for the Senate. For the other House of Representatives, there is 435 one. They are elected by the popular, by how popular or how the each state have how many people. So they differ from a state to the other. Right. There is different one, like they can be like 20 or 25, something like that from New York. It depends on the population of this
particular state.
So the altogether, the both houses in the Congress are 100 senators, and 435, that's 535. Right. And then this is the electoral vote. This is the voices each state have. So these voices count to elect. Plus, they add to them another 3 vote for Washington, D.C., because it's not a state. So it's exactly 538 vote. Each vote have a person who get elected to vote for the president. So it's indirect voting. So when you vote, in fact, you vote for this delegate. And the delegate then sit, which is going to happen in 19th of this month, in December, and elect as a president. So I didn't like this because it should be just popular vote. But the people who did it, I really, you know, I was discussing it with my wife yesterday, which she cried for an hour after Trump win, not because she liked Hillary, but because of the person that's racism, that's show America is not as it used to be. So some people now saying we should change this, because the delegate, this delegate who are responsible for a few votes, like 50,000 or 100 on an area, this delegate should see what's the popular vote and go for it. Like if the popular vote is for Hillary, he go for Hillary, or for Trump, he go for Trump. But he can change that. Right. That's another thing. And if he change, he can be fined and he pay a penalty. So now some people say now that they should change and they shouldn't give their vote for Trump, they should give it to Hillary so she become a president. I don't think this will happen, but that's how people are talking right now. If in the meantime, if you see the whole, the whole population of America, she is winning by popular vote, but the people voted. But why did they do that? I think they were genius. They did it because they want all the states to participate in choosing the president. They don't want to say, for example, it's only popular vote. Then California and New York can decide who's the president because they have more people, and Florida may be, and then it will be all the people want him. So they want to spread it, that all the states vote at the same time. That's why they want every state to be kind of independent and choose a president also. That's why they have it both ways or this way. That's why it worked, and it happened many times before that somebody would have.
Today we saw Hillary Clinton make her first, perhaps, statements about this, and saying that obviously the FBI as head, James Comey, he put her under the bus, if you will, because of his statements exactly before the election. Do you think there's much truth to that? That obviously the FBI head did have a role to play in
Washington. Definitely. And when they said after that, some Congress people said that they were going to investigate what he did, and they're going to question him as a Congress, That's when he changed it after just 1 or 2 days before the election, which it didn't help then.
Right.
He really helped Trump a lot. But when he said again to just clear himself and that this email was not important, that was too late for Hillary. And I think that was one of the reasons. Second reason, when some people don't understand it, when I'm saying that it was Russian interfere in the American election.
How so?
And that's Obama himself said that. How so? By WikiLeaks. Which I always thought it was the KGB behind it. WikiLeaks was always banging in the mistakes Hillary did, or anything, even if it's, in the Facebook was full of lies also, and that's one other thing they said, that the Facebook are not verifying anything you put in there. So it was a lot of lies, people believed. Also, not only the WikiLeaks, the Democratic Party email also was published, and they had a problem, internal problem in the party in the time of the election also. That's Obama said he thinks that's which it's unprecedented. They don't say that. You cannot, a big country like America, come and say we're being penetrated by the KGB or the intelligence of another country, which I think it's true. I think it did happen.
But nevertheless, yeah, you say obviously it did happen. It doesn't really make her the better candidate.
No, it doesn't.
I think America was put in a very tough spot, choosing between two very polarizing.
That's what they say all the time. They are two bad candidates. They are the worst candidates. The media is saying that in America, the worst two candidates in history. Almost.
But let's look now at the facts. Donald Trump is the next president of the United States of America. Do you think he has the experience to run a country like that?
Okay. For that reason, and for many reasons, I said this is the beginning of the fall of America.
Right.
Why? Because when somebody like that run a country, he can hurt it more than he can help. Bush the son did hurt America a lot by being there, by being elected as a president. He did hurt America. Obama could not fix what Bush did for the economy for 8 years, and that's what another reason why people are not satisfied with the Democratic Party. So having somebody who's really worse, having somebody who's opinionated, having somebody who's racist, he's prejudiced, he's a lot. He's an enemy of everybody. He's not happy with anybody. He want to be except Russia. He's like, really, he's not happy with Europe. He's not happy with Muslim and Arabs and all this.
Europe is quite alarmed by Trump's win.
Yes.
And today we are seeing the European foreign ministers meet to discuss, obviously, the repercussions of having him come as U.S. president. But the thing is this, a lot of people are saying what you hear during the elections is one thing, and it's to garner certain support, and what you see when he does become U.S. president, it's going to be a completely different story.
I have an opinion about that. I have something to say about that. Yes, it's true. Whatever you say, it does not mean you can do it. And he's not going to do whatever he says. He's not going to be able to prevent a Muslim from entering and all these things. No, he's not. But what's important is when somebody's talking, you can see what he thinks, who he is, what kind of person is that. Him apologizing or him not doing this, it does not mean he's not prejudiced. It does not mean his way of thinking in many things and many cases are wrong. Building walls, it's not a good way of thinking. Put yourself inside a jail. It's not think you are the best or you are the superior. It's not good way of thinking. So this will show what kind of person he is. It does not mean that everything he says he can do. No, it's not. But in the meantime, he will have a power.
Right.
He will have a power. Only Bush, the son, have it because Bush.
Well, tell us a little bit more about that, because a lot of people are saying, some analysts say, it doesn't matter who's in the White House. Obviously, Obama, when he first came, he had a lot of, for example, talked about Obamacare, be it internally or about, obviously, the two-state solution when it comes to foreign policy, but nothing really came of it. So a lot of analysts are saying that it doesn't matter who is at the helm of the White House. There is a certain foreign policy, there is a certain policy in general that guides the U.S. president.
I always say the same thing.
Right.
That it does not, that it's very hard for the president to change. But there's always exceptions. There is exception in Bush. It was very hard, impossible, almost for a president to go to war and have bodies coming. There was a lot of bodies coming. A lot of people died in Bush time. but because he does not think of the results or what can happen, he can do anything. And then the bigger problem is when you have the Congress with you. It's usually hard for the president because the Congress against him, but now he has the Congress too, and the man is very tough. Let me put it in this way. And this will scare a lot of people, will follow suit with him. The man is known about that he fired, and his program is a TV about training managers, and he fired them and all this. He's feared. I can see in his wife's eyes and kid that he's feared. It's a personality, the kind of person he is. I don't think anybody in America really wants this one to be the president.
But do you think with what we're hearing, really, with what we're hearing from Trump, that he's going to be not so much out there in your face like George W. Bush? He won't be starting wars, but perhaps being a more isolationist president, we're thinking drawing America in and drawing Americans in and trying perhaps not to engage so much with the rest of with the outside world, because he thinks that they're the root of all evil.
I really hope so. I really don't think America should be the World Cup as he do. I personally, I hope that he would, but he gave a lot of mixed signals. You don't know really where he's going. Like, he want to finish ISIS or Daesh, and in the meantime, he want to be friendly with Russia. And in the same time, he said he will let Russia do whatever they want to do in Syria. There is good and bad. That's why we have to try to take the good things he can do. He's going to be strong. Right. I think he's going to, even if he can be impeached. A lot of people say he will be impeached and he's not going to be staying for so long. But I think there's good things could come out of him, which about some of part of it is about ISIS. The other part is about Arab-Israeli problem, I hope. Even if you see his speech in Iraq, it was horrible. I mean, they didn't stop clapping and dancing of what he was saying. He was giving everything he can to Israel. I don't know how can he be try to broker the Middle East negotiation or whatever, but he's asking for negotiations in the Middle East. So when you become a president, a lot of things change. Right. When you listen to other leaders, so he's going to listen to our leader, to Sisi. So when he listens to other leaders, I'm sure he will change. This man was living, he doesn't know much. He was living in only his business. He cared about his business, and he feels very superior in his business. He might change when he knows the reality.
You say that, but then what we saw on the ground also was that he reached out, and he was very well received by a huge segment of American society, whether we like it or not. What does that say about how America has changed?
America, that's another thing I was saying about falling of America. America is changing to the right, to the extreme right. And this is going to follow in Europe. You will see. We're going to see a lot.
Well, it started in Europe with the Brexit.
You see, we're going to see a lot. And because extreme, that's what's bad about extreme. Extreme make extreme. Anger make anger. I mean, because of what's happening in the Middle East, uncalculated, whoever try to do what they're doing in Middle East is going to hurt them. And that's how it's going to be hurt them. If Trump thinks he's going to save America or make America safer, but what he's doing, he's going to do the opposite. So you have to be reasonable and think, that's not the way. If you want to have peace, if you want to have safety for your people, you shouldn't be aggressive. Right. Don't take aggressive measurement. Don't take
we
extreme
say that
measurement.
he's appealed to a large segment of American society, but he's also a very divisive figure, because we're seeing since he got elected, we're seeing a lot of Americans go on the streets protesting his election. What do these protests mean, and can they culminate into anything?
So most of the voters, I mean, 60% of Americans are white or more. And most of these people went to vote. These people are fed up from the things he was talking about. Right. And I give them the right. Absolutely, they have right. They are upset about the people who come from other countries, doesn't work, use their facilities and use everything America gave them, and they don't do anything, and they don't even pay taxes. And I understand why American people be frustrated. I want somebody come and say, I'm the savior from this. I'm the savior from the Muslim who come and make some attacks, terrorist attack in America, which doesn't do anything. The terrorist attack in America killed 13 people in the last 6-7 years. Right. When gun, which is his pro-gun, are killing like over 400,000 people. But Americans are not that in general, people are not that involved in politics. People are not thinking about what they hear. They should think more. You don't just take it as simple as you think it is. So that's why I think most of these people voted for him. And this is, don't forget about the Midwest states and all these states, they think about gun and...
Right. But obviously, again, if I bring you back to the protests that are taking place on the streets of America, will they change anything? Will they?
No.
Right.
No. It is going to grow a little bit more. Because American people are not really used to that. I don't think it's going to do anything. Even we heard about try to change the delegates' vote and all this. I think he's the president.
Right.
I don't think it is. Even if you heard Hillary's her speech, we have to accept the results, and he's the president.
Right.
So.
Finally, I guess perhaps a lot of people here in Egypt are anxious about how relations are going to look like between the U.S. and Egypt under a Trump presidency.
Nobody knows. I really, if I tell you exactly, no, I don't know. It's just we hoped a lot from Bush in the first term, but his first term wasn't good for us. If we really can try to convince him and talk to him and show him how the ways or how things should be, he might be helpful. Another thing I really will take the opportunity to talk about why we are shy about talking about the aid, American aid to Egypt.
Right.
It should increase. He said he will help Egypt. I think that Egypt used to be number 2 of receiving aid from America, and we give them back a lot, much more than that. Now Iraq is number 2, and Pakistan is number 3 with 1.7 billion, and Egypt is getting 1.3 billion. I think we should discuss that with him. He should increase as much as Israel is getting, because we are a very important country. We are defending all this world from the terrorism, and Egypt is the only one who knows how to deal with these problems, all problems, even including the Middle East problem. Yeah. So they should put Egypt in the right place, and we should deal with him as equal, completely equally, and we should try to advise him of what he should be doing.
I thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed Salwan, former member of the Republican Committee at the U.S. Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have for this edition of The Daily Debate. Do join us again tomorrow, same time, same place, with a new crew here on The Daily Debate. A very good evening from myself, Nancy Sarah Barakat.